Now, one of the other issues in this piece that I wanted to talk about is the predominance of articulated note E. And lucky for us, E just happens to be the least stable note on the flute. So that is a problem that we have to address in looking at this piece. One of the things that I like to use to help me center and focus my E's is an etude, and I'm going to show it to you now. It's by Theobald Bain. It's from the 24 Melodious Studies, Opus 37, number 2. I'll put a link to this on my website. And I like this etude very much. This is from the Bel Canto Flute, the Rampal School, which is a wonderful book by my friend Cheryl Cohen. And she talks about how this etude was used to help learn the E's. She talks about how Rampal recommended this particular etude as a way to solve the problem of the unstable E. So I recommend that you practice this etude in order to find your E's, because this etude is based on articulations of E in the middle register. So you really need to get those E's exactly centered. And one thing to keep in mind that might be helpful is to try not to blow out too much on those E's, because they're likely to crack. You don't want to just hold the sound as if it's resonating inside your body rather than trying to spit it out. And you'll find you can use less air and get a bigger sound and an easier, more leggero articulation. Now, as we move on, we're jumping octaves on the E's frequently, and we're going from the middle register to the upper register and occasionally even into the first octave. Now, when you're playing the third octave E, you may want to take your right hand pinky off for those high E's. It makes it a little more stable. It lowers the pitch slightly. So try playing it without that E, that pinky key, and listen to the pitch and see if you prefer it that way. Another little trick you can do, this is before 65, we have the crescendo and the diminuendo all on those E's. And when I say the E's, I'm talking about the first flute part. Don't forget, you can make an audition video on the second flute part as well. And they even recommend this in their information about the competition, because they say that there may be less people entering on the second part, so it may give you an advantage. So, but I'm speaking today about the first part when I talk about the E's. There's this crescendo and diminuendo, and the risk there is that as you diminuendo, that the E's drop in pitch and go extremely flat. So one little trick that I like to use, you can very lightly half open the first trill key on your right hand. You just use your second finger, lean it over a tiny bit. You don't want to open it all the way. Just vent it a tiny bit. Now that is going to raise the pitch, and it will change the timbre a little bit as well. So you have to make sure you don't overdo it so that it goes too sharp. Now, I personally found that using that vented key there made it a little bit too sharp, but as a practice technique, I liked doing that because it allowed me to hear the raised pitch of the E, to hear it higher. So then when I played it without venting the key, my ear wanted to raise it a little bit higher, and it helped counterbalance the tendency to go flat. Now, a few things with the rhythm and the meter, and this is in measure 81. Take a look at that. We have the 16th notes here, but they're grouped 3 and 3. So visually, it looks like you would expect to get a conducting cue that would be in 2 in that measure. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. But we are still in 3, 8. So we are going to get 1, 2, 3 as a conducting pattern. So make sure that you don't mistakenly anticipate a measure of 2 and instead be prepared for ti-ti-ya, 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 ta-ti-ya in 3. Now, the 7/16 measure, which is 82. Gareth Davies explains that it's helpful to play those in thinking of it as 1 2 1 2 1 2 3, and I agree, that's very helpful there. But if you think of it as 1 2 1 2 1 2 3, 1 2 1 2 1 2 3, you may be anticipating a conducting pattern with 3 gestures, and the maestro in this case decides to give the conducting pattern in 2, which makes it 1 2 1 2 1 2 3. Or you can think of it as 1 2 3 4 1 2 3, 1 2 3 4 1 2 3 for those 2 measures. So be careful there. Now, when we get to measure 98, and this is what I like to call the drunken sailor theme because it reminds me of the tune, what would you do with a drunken sailor? What would you do with a drunken sailor? So whenever I hear this, I think of the drunken sailor theme. Make sure that you get each tempo change very precisely when you get to each of those new sections. It does speed up and get quite quick. Make sure, of course, that you're double tonguing on the ta, tika ta, ta, tiki ta, so that you get that very clean and precise. And also, be careful not to rush through the double tongue articulated notes because it's very easy to play. Keep it nice and even. Now, at the very end of the piece, also be careful. We have the più mosso at 137, and this is conducted in 3, but then when we get to the 4/4 measure, it is being conducted in 2. So make sure you're aware of that and anticipating it. And again, this is a place where you may want to take your right hand pinky off those high E's to avoid cracking. I hope this was helpful. I look forward to seeing your audition videos. Feel free to post your audition videos as a video response to this video, and that way I'll get a message that you have submitted it and I can go, and if you want to ask me any questions, I'm happy to give a listen. So good luck!